What's going on, everybody? How we doing today? We're live on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Kind of looks like I'm drinking pee, but it's not pee. It is an orange energy drink. How's everybody going? What are we doing over here? Instagram, what's going on? Hanifi, Kokmevetor, Heshor, Palmever. Oh, I can't even pronounce this. Oh, P.A. Miller 88. That's pretty easy to read. Why is Huban everywhere more? All right, welcome. How we doing, YouTube? Throw some love in the chat or something. We know that you're alive and kicking. Man, what a great day, Monday, right? Perfect day to start coding. Coding's a cool way to start out the week, right? How's everybody doing? All right. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Jason. I'm a full stack developer here at DevSlopes. I work on a lot of cool things, code a lot of cool stuff. I primarily work in the MERN stack, which is Mongo Express, React, and Node. And then I'm also the DevSlopes Academy, Web Academy instructor, coach, and mentor. So I work with students all day, help them learn how to code, help them to be successful landing freelance projects and getting jobs. So that's what I do all day. Very blessed. It's an awesome lifestyle to code and to help others learn how to code and see them become successful with it. So what kind of questions do we have? So primarily some of the things that we talk about is like what languages you should be learning as a beginner developer. We cover things like different technology stacks, freelance questions, comparisons between different programming stacks and things of that nature. So we're going to start off with Instagram over here. Let's see what questions we have. What's going on, Ryan? Let's see. What's going on? Why is Hub Ham? Something like that. All right. All right. What do we have? What's up from Philly? Hey, what's going on? I'm repping here from Southern Texas. No, I do not have a thick Southern Texas accent. I'm not born here in Texas, but I sure do love it. All right. Holy cow. Everybody just wants to be part of the live stream. What kind of questions do we have? Let's talk code. There we go. Nefesi asks, what about Flutter? Flutter is a really cool programming language. It's cross-platform. So it's really good if like you're trying to build your own app and you want it to be cross-platform, right? Because everything's kept in one code base. And it's also good for freelancers. All right. Now, if you're looking to get a job as a Flutter developer, not a lot of companies are hiring for a Flutter developer. It still hasn't been adopted into like the mainstream like company programming languages, but it is a really fantastic language. Now, one of the other things to consider about Flutter is Flutter is great for cross-platform, right? Keeps everything in one code base. But if you're building an app that needs very, very specific access to specific features of the OS, like iOS or Android, Flutter might not be the best solution if you're specifically trying to talk to and communicate with features specific to those native platforms. But other than that, for a general purpose, it covers a very broad spectrum of things that you need to or want to do with mobile application. It's really cool. I've worked with Flutter. I haven't done anything in production with Flutter, but I've done, I've tinkered around with it and built a few like, what do you call it? Like practice apps or something, just to kind of get the hang of it. Same person asks tips to learn Flutter. You can start with YouTube. That's a decent place to start. There's tutorials there. And then if you want to, take it even further, I'm sure there's a Flutter course on like udemy.com or something. Here at the DevSlopes Web Academy, we don't teach Flutter, but we teach the MERN stack, Mongo Express, React, Node, HTML, CSS, JavaScript, ES6, deployment services, all that fun jazz. We teach here at the DevSlopes Academy. All right, what else do we have here? What about Drupal 7? I've never worked with Drupal before, like ever. Never once touched it, so I don't have a lot of feedback or input about Drupal. Let's see. I know Node.js. What the next? I'm not sure how to interpret that sentence, but Node.js is awesome. Allows you to write JavaScript on the server, which is really cool, especially for web development. And if you're pushing to be a full stack web developer, because you'll learn the basics: HTML, CSS, JavaScript, maybe a UI library like React, for an example, and then you can just move into Node, and you don't have to go learn any new programming languages or anything for the back end. You can write JavaScript server side using Node, which is really cool. So keeps everything in one code base, and it makes a really smooth transition from front end to full stack developer. Why developers not talk about Jenkins or Elasticsearch? Something important. I don't know why developers aren't talking about it. Maybe because a lot of developers don't know about it. I don't know about those. I mean, I've heard of Jenkins and everything. Or let's see, you spelled it Jenkers. I've never heard of Elasticsearch before. I don't really know what that entails, but if it's important, awesome. But those languages, like just right off the bat, I don't see a huge need in the market for things like that. I'm sure there's a time and a place, probably really great programming languages, but I just don't know a lot about it. And I haven't even seen a lot of information about it. You say it's important, but which it could be. I just don't see any information surfacing about those. Is data structures essentially essential to work with all software first? So it's essential to have a basic understanding of data structures. By all means, you don't have to be an expert in it. As you continue to use data structures and continue learning to code, you'll gain a depth in those things. But like on the job, to be successful as a developer, you don't have to be an expert, but some basic understanding is all you need. Flask or Bolt WebSockets. I've never used either of those. I've used, let's see, what have I used? Oh my gosh, I forgot the technology, but I have used WebSockets before. I just forget the package that I used. What can you start after Node.js? After Node.js, you should be building full stack applications, things that perform like CRUD operations: create, read, update, delete. And in conjunction with Node, I would pick up something like Express for the middleware, and then MongoDB as the database, and then just use those three: Node, Express, and Mongo for the back end, and then choose a front end and start building some full stack projects. Okay, so you say that those Jenkins and something search is important for big companies. Again, I've never seen that stuff before. Shout out my name. Dev Akashu wants me to shout out their name. So there you go, Dev Akashu. I probably slaughtered it. I probably didn't pronounce it very well. Socket.io, yes. Dev, that's the one. That's the one that I've used, Socket.io. Yep. That is the web sockets that I use. And I used it when I was building so in the DevSlopes Web Academy, really cool, really fun project. We build a Slack clone in React using hooks and all that fun stuff, and the context API that React has. And we use Socket.io as our listener. And then we have all this functionality. So when a user is typing, it has a live listener, so it listens that a user's typing, and then it shows up in a little chat box and says so-and-so is typing a message. And then when you create a new channel, for an example, it immediately appears in the other user's apps, and you can do all of that with something like Socket.io to set up these listeners when all that shenanigans is happening. Any specific language for DevOps? Not off the top of my head. All right, we'll take another question from YouTube or Instagram here, and then YouTube, I'll get to you. Let's see. Yeah, understand. Anyway, let's see. Hold on, let me try to read this. Understand you anyway, what I need to know. There's many technologies we need to know. Yeah, there's many technologies you need to know, but you should only be learning the technologies that you want to do with programming, if that makes sense. So for an example, if you want to be a mobile iOS developer, you should be learning iOS, Sprite Kit. You should be using Swift UI. Those are the things that you should be learning. If you're doing Android, you should be learning Kotlin. If you're doing web development, HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and then choose, I always recommend React. It's a really smooth transition from JavaScript, and then choose a backend stack. But if you're wanting to do like machine learning or AI, then you should learn Python, right? So there's all these different programming languages, but you should be learning what it is you want to actually accomplish with programming and what you want to code in the future, right? So don't just be learning all these technologies because people say, oh, you should definitely learn this and this and this, or this is so popular. Like, scratch that. Like, what do you want to do with programming? And then learn that. All right, let's take some questions here from YouTube. How's everybody doing? Radhasan, welcome, gentlemen of culture. I love that. Let's see, the guy who recently uploaded a video is your brother? I don't know. Who uploaded a video? Was it Mark? Was it Nathan, our marketing guy? Was it Nathan, the iOS developer? I doubt he's uploaded videos. Was it Alan Hill, an Android video? I don't know. He says he looks like me. It's probably Nathan, our marketing guy. We kind of have this little hair thing going on here. You are not from Texas. Always thought that you were a Texan. Your accent is No, I'm not from Texas. Born and raised in Utah. Moved to California when I first got into programming, and then lived in California right next to the beach. It was awesome for a couple of years. It was the Central Coast. And then a couple of years ago, I moved here to Texas, and then just bought a home out in the country so I can just code in peace and quiet. It's really fun. Let's see. How does Flutter work? I create apps for iOS and Android. Tired of coding in 2 different platforms separately. Yeah, Timboji. Check out a Flutter tutorial. A lot of people use Flutter and Dart. And then there's a whole setup process about how you want to deploy to your native apps and whatnot. Flutter uses something called widgets. It's a really cool, unique syntax. A lot of fun to code in. But I would check out some YouTube tutorials. That's where I'd start. Is it better to learn the structure of programming or the languages? Well, you should only learn the languages of the type of programming you want to do. That's it. Don't waste your time with everything else. That's why I don't know everything, because I have zero interest to ever learn PHP. I have no interest in Drupal or the Golang or these other things. Right? Like, I just don't have interest in it. And so I don't spend time learning that. I do spend a lot of time diving into the React documentation and best practices and advanced, data structures in React and things of that nature. But yeah, you should learn the structure and programming and then learn the languages that go with it. What is better, PHP or Node? That's a hard question because that's like a personal opinion, right? Some people like swear by PHP. I personally, I wouldn't touch PHP with a 10-foot pole. I would use Node hands down. I think PHP is gross. It's a very old language. Nothing wrong with that. There's companies that still use it. Respect out to PHP, but it's not my friend. I just don't want to be friends with PHP. Node is way cooler. And I can write all my server-side code for web development in Node just using JavaScript, and I don't have to go and learn something else. So yeah, I'm gonna say Node for sure. Is JavaScript the best language? It's a programming language. It's the foundational language for web development. Best programming language is in the eye of the beholder. Hitchum, I am 24 years old. Am I too old to learn programming languages, and what should I learn specifically that gets me a job in USA? That's a really great question. So Hitchum, I got into programming in my late 20s. I had like 9 years previous experience as a regional sales manager. I was traveling along the West Coast, opening up stores, training sales teams, and all this shenanigans. And one day I got sick of it, and I decided that, you know what, I want to be a programmer. So I went down the self-taught road. That was in my late 20s. Long story short, I ended up working for Dell Computers as a full stack engineer. And now I'm here at DevSlopes as a full stack engineer, and then also teaching people how to code. So no, it's not too late. We even have students in the DevSlopes Academy. I think our oldest student is like 55. He's in the iOS Academy, and he's already gotten a job as well. And then I think our youngest student is like 15. So you are never too old to learn how to code and to do a career change, because the world is in dire needs of programmers. And what languages should you learn specifically to get you a job? So the 3 hot markets is going to be iOS, Android, and web development. If you're looking at the salaries, iOS and Android developers tend to make more. Well, they do make more in most aspects than a web developer. Web developers kind of make the least, but still good salaries. I mean, a USA-based salary, it's very common to see any of those 3 programming languages, iOS, Android, or web, after 3 years of in-the-job experience to be making 6 figures plus. So I'm a college student and I'm trying to balance learning to code and schoolwork. Any tips? The reality is you can't balance. There's just no balance. When people say live a balanced life, you can't. That's impossible. There's always going to be something, priorities, that is going to consume more of your time. But I understand what you're trying to say here, learning to code in school. So when I was learning to code, I had a family, I had a wife and kids and a job and everything. And I was like, you know what? I need to do a life change here and learn how to code. So me personally, I was up around 4:30, 5 a.m. every single day. All right, like 6 days a week, Monday through Saturday. I'd spend 3 hours around, 4:30 a.m. Learning to code. Then I went and did my job. I got home around 4 o'clock or so. I spent another 4 hours learning to code. I helped with the family, dinner, all that stuff. And then I coded till like midnight, 11 or 12 p.m. So that's what I did. So I fit it around my lifestyle, but it's rough, right? Because things come up and nobody's holding you accountable. So for me, early mornings and late nights was the way I learned how to code. And it was worth it. Okay, I hustled and I grinded and I put in the work, and now I get to work remotely, enjoy time with my family, have a great salary. I don't live paycheck to paycheck anymore, and life is good. I can't complain. It's great. It's great. Let's see, how to learn the best practices, industry standards for building software websites, or anything of that sort for someone who knows how to code and can build small projects independently. That's a really good question, and I'm glad you bring that up. Let me summarize this. So basically, you're just wondering how to learn the best practices. And in some ways, it's difficult to find the line where best practices are, because there's so many YouTube tutorials or Udemy courses and articles where the developer who creates these kind of has their own opinion and style about programming. So they just kind of teach you their way of doing it. Now, I'm not saying that all of them are showing you bad practices. There's good practices. But the thing that really helped me define the line between, all right, this is somebody's opinion and style of programming, and this is best practices, is reading documentation. As boring and mundane as it sounds, whatever programming language you're looking at, go to their docs and read the docs 100%, because that way, when you do watch a tutorial or read an article, you'll be able to draw that line and pick out saying, yep, this is best practices and this is opinion. It's still good. It's a fine practice, but then it'll help you also spot the bad practices. That's a really good question. I wish more people thought that way, because it's one thing to learn how to code, but there are best practices and project architecture and things of that nature that is important to learn, that really sets programmers apart from others, like some of the really good ones. All right, we're going to do some questions from YouTube, or actually, no, Instagram. I just got done with YouTube. Let's see. Let's see, the language, still a language, something very simple, but we need to learn something big. I don't understand that question. Learn a programming language, do tutorials, start small projects, build big projects without tutorials, And then that'll help train your brain to think like a programmer and solve problems. And that is the key turning point between true developers, when they can solve problems on their own with Google without following a tutorial. All right, what else do we have here? Bob Burrito. It looks like burrito, but it's like Bobber and then some numbers. But anyways, what framework do I need to learn as a web developer? You need to learn HTML, CSS, JavaScript. Okay, JavaScript's the big one. You're going to spend a lot of time in JavaScript. It's going to frustrate you, but you got to stick it out, and you've got to be prepared. Like, it could take you anywhere from 3 to 9 months to learn JavaScript, like to be proficient in it. All right, and then choose a UI library like React, and then I'd start there, and then after that, let's talk, and then I'll tell you what to do for a full stack developer. But if you do want some guidance and some direction learning to code, I'm a teacher, coach, and mentor for the DevSlopes Web Academy. So I work with students all day, helping them learn how to code. So you can go to devslopes.com/apply and, get on a phone call with one of our career coaches, see if the DevSlopes Academy is for you. But I would be stoked and honored to work with you. So, and I'll work with you until you get paid. Like, my job is not done. It is not over until my students make money coding. It's just silly that people spend all this time learning a skill, right? Even like college, they'll spend like tens of thousands of dollars for college, and then they have a skill, but it's like, how do you make money with it? Like, how do you go through the whole job interview process, the tech interview, the take-home coding challenges? What about strategizing your LinkedIn profile? What about doing freelance work? What about, so much other stuff? And so I work with my students until they get paid. That's very important to me. There's no point, it doesn't make sense to bleed and sweat to learn something and not reap the benefits. So check out the DevSlopes Academy. I'd be stoked to work with you and get you paid. Let's see. Hey, Jason, after HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, did you mention before that you'd recommend React Next? Yeah. Yep. Do React Next. And there's different stacks that you can go after, right? After HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, I mean, you could learn Vue.js, you could do React, there's Angular, there's other things. But the reason why I recommend React is because whether you're doing freelance work or trying to get a job, there's a huge market for React developers. What I'm saying is there is a need for those type of developers and to get paid. You could do Vue.js, okay? That's awesome, another awesome programming language. But you're gonna find, I mean, that's fine if you're doing freelance work, and it's also good for startup companies. You'll really only find Vue.js in startups. Angular is awesome, but it has an insanely steep learning curve because you have to learn TypeScript, and then Angular has a lot of Angular specific syntax to it and their own way of doing things. There's a lot of opinions around Angular about this is the way you build projects, this is the way you write code, this is, X, Y, and Z. Like, it's very, 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 structured, which is cool. That's why a lot of enterprise or corporate companies like using Angular as a choice, because of how strict it is. But as a beginner, it does have a steeper learning curve. You could do it, but I recommend React. Let's see, what else do we have? Let's see. Let's see, looks like we've got some trolls. What age should you get into programming? Any age, it doesn't matter. I got in my late 20s. I did a complete career change. I had never seen a line of code in my life. I never imagined that I would be, a programmer in my life, but it interested me one day and I looked into it. I'm a self-taught developer, and I just took it and ran with it. So no, you're not too old. We've got students in the DevSlopes Academy. One guy's 55. He's in our iOS Academy. He learned iOS development and he's already gotten a job. Let's see. I am a student of artificial intelligence in my university, and they teach me Python, but I want to do a job in Apple. What can I do? Please answer. So you should be learning Swift. All right. So this is some of the interesting things is people go to universities or colleges for a computer science degree. The reality is you don't need a computer science degree or any of that jazz to get a job or be successful as a developer. And colleges and universities are just going to teach you one thing. This is what we're going to teach you, and that's it. But just like what you're saying, what if you don't want to do artificial intelligence? What if you want to do, Apple apps, iPhone apps? Well, then the university is like teaching you a waste of time, right? So you should be learning Swift development. You can check out tutorials online, like YouTube and whatnot. If you really want to learn Swift, though, and you want a career change, you want to learn the best practices, you want to work with a mentor one-on-one, you want someone to review your code, and if you want someone to help you land paid freelance work and get a job, then go to the DevSlopes Academy. Go to devslopes.com/apply. And we've got the iOS Academy. You'll learn everything you need to know to be successful and to make money as an iOS developer. All right. And you'll have your own mentor. You have weekly live meetups. Like, we go all out on this. And so I would check that out, devslopes.com/apply. And we've got the Academy for iOS, Android, and web development. All right. We will work with you to make it happen. What else do we have? How much time we got? We got 2 minutes. Which is better according to money, web or Android? Android development is. It does have a little bit of a smaller niche market, but there's still a lot of jobs and opportunities with it. Now, with web development, there is way more opportunities. I wouldn't say the market's saturated, but there are so many web development positions open and available. Like, they're just selling like hotcakes. And web developers make good money too. Now, you have to also ask yourself, like, money is important, right? But will you enjoy Android development better, or will you enjoy web development better? I strongly recommend choosing one that most interests you versus the money, because learning to code is hard and you're going to get frustrated. You're going to get discouraged. But if you pick a technology that you're excited to learn, then it's going to be a lot easier to push through those times. All right, what else do we have? Someone asked, would you suggest YouTube rather than books? They're both great. I've got a list of books that I could recommend, a list of YouTube channels that I'd recommend. Again, DevSlopes Academy has iOS, Android, and web development academies, online boot camps that you can join, and you'll have a one-on-one mentor to work with and learn how to code. Let's see, without Swift, isn't it possible to do a job in Apple, not only iOS development? Well, iOS development is iPhone apps. Let's see, without Swift, is it possible to do? So a job in Apple, sure. I'm sure there's other jobs in Apple, sure. I mean, they're a massive company, right? And there's everything from marketing to sales positions to data analysts to QA testers to everything, to salespeople, everything. So, but if you want to be a developer, then learn Swift. All right, that's all the questions for Instagram. Thank you, everybody. I'm gonna pick one or two more questions from YouTube, and then we're gonna wrap this thing up, and I'm gonna get back to coding. I'm working on some API stuff. Oh man, there's a lot of YouTube questions here. I'm not gonna be able to get to all of these. Let's see, someone's learned HTML, CSS, Bootstrap. Now they want to go for React and then for Node. Before you move into React or Node, make sure you've learned JavaScript. What should I learn to become a Salesforce developer? I don't know, but that is you can literally copy and paste your comment into Google and see what Google comes up with. Let's see, what else do we have? Ahmad, I'm a good developer, but what's annoying me is that most companies require a college degree. You know what, Ahmad, this is the question that I'm going to wrap up with. Thank you, everybody, for your other questions. We'll get to those tomorrow. But Ahmad, most companies you're saying require a computer science degree. What's silly is it's bullcrap. They don't require a computer science degree. They posted it on there because that's what they've been doing for 20 years. But at the end of the day, all a company wants, or all a client wants, is somebody who can code and pump out results. That's it. A little piece of paper doesn't prove jack. Computer science degree students have way less hands-on experience than a self-taught developer does. A self-taught developer, in most cases, knows how to code a lot faster out of the gates because they have their hands on a keyboard. They're not learning all the theory that a computer science degree is delivering. And so for an example, I'm a self-taught developer. Okay, I worked at Dell Computers as a full stack engineer. On the job requirements, their requirements on their job listing said required computer science degree, 5 years in JavaScript, 3 years in React. I applied for the job. I have no college degree, zero. All right. I only had 3 years of JavaScript and 1 year of React. I interviewed. I got through the technical interview, the questions, the coding challenge. They looked at my code and they liked it and they hired me, and I worked at Dell for several years. All right. So don't worry about the computer science degree stuff. Self-taught developers is the way to go. Save yourself $80,000 and a lot of stuff that college isn't going to teach you about how to actually be successful in the job industry. All right. So great question, everybody. Thank you so much for hopping on and for joining. Again, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Jason, full stack developer here at DevSlopes and the coding mentor and coach for the DevSlopes Web Academy. I help students learn how to code and then review their code and help them get paid. All right, so go to devslopes.com/apply if you'd like to work with a mentor one-on-one to learn how to code. And then if you're looking to expand your coding skills, DevSlopes has a 30-day coding challenge, 30daycodechallenge.com for iOS or for Swift and for JavaScript. So if you're looking for a fun code challenge, go to 30daycodechallenge.com. Get signed up. The next code challenge starts in about a week. So go get signed up for that. All right. Until next time, stay safe, stay positive, and keep coding. Adios.